Hey YouTubers, Hike with Mike here of course, and I was tagged on your 5 greatest adventures by Florida Pirate Adventures. And here are mine, and there are no specific order. Number 1 would be, I was about 22 and I was working for the airlines. I worked on like what was called the on-call type of situation, where they would call me in when they needed me. So I had a lot of free time. So I decided to take advantage of the free airfare I had. And I got my first credit card. I think I had $1,500 on it. And I flew to Alaska. I flew to Anchorage. And I drove down to the Kenai Peninsula. And I went to Homer. And my main goal there was to do some halibut fishing and salmon fishing. And I did a whole lot of that, and it was really cool. And then I went around in this area here. I climbed a glacier, went into an ice cave, had to wear bells because of grizzly bears, and just an amazing place, the most amazing place I've ever been to, the most beautiful place. As much as I love my swamps, it really was a beautiful place. So I would definitely say my trip to Alaska, 22 years old, I stayed until I ran up my credit card, and then I left. And I had a great time. Summertime was weird. The sun setting at about 11 at night and coming back up at 3 in the morning. But and Cook Inlet with all the whales coming in through the inlet there. That was really cool to see too. So it was really a wonderful place. And if you haven't been to Alaska, I highly recommend it. Next is my favorite place. My home place, Florida. And there's so many places to choose from here. I think the adventure I'm going to talk about is, it's not even on this map here, but it's in this general area here. Jumper Creek. It's a weird place. It's really swampy. It was a place where there was a lot of battles during the Seminole Wars. And I got lost there. And that was an interesting time. I mean, I literally had heat exhaustion, and I fainted, and I came to, and I had resisted getting a cell phone for the longest time, and like a week before that, I finally gave in and had a cell phone. And I knew I was only not too far from the trailhead, but I was lost, so I had to call the Forest Service, and they had to come and get me. And then they got me, and then they got lost too. It's a really weird place. It's strange. There's like some sort of, I don't know, mystical or weird stuff that happens there. But that was definitely an adventure, getting lost at Jumper Creek. I'll never forget that. That was a fun time, even though at the time it wasn't. The next one is, I love this place because it's a short drive, relatively, for where I'm located. Is right here. Pine Mountain, Georgia. One of the most difficult hikes to a campground I ever experienced was hiking to, I can't remember the name of the campsite, but it was a bunch of switchbacks up this hill, and it was a beautiful trail with lots of waterfalls, which that's what made it, and that's what I like about, the reason why this is an adventure I like. It's a reasonable drive for me, probably about 6 hours. To get to it, and I get a little bit of the mountain experience, which you don't get in the swamps. But it's a pretty rugged, the one campsite I went to, primitive campsite, was pretty rugged to get there. And I was pretty tired. I had a lot of gear, and I set up there, and I had a weird experience. There was someone there that was kind of odd looking to me. And when I was hiking, I felt like a rock that went like flying by my head, like someone was throwing it at me. And when I got to the campsite, I set up, and a dog came into camp, and I was petting it, and all of a sudden this odd individual just whistled at the dog, and I said hello, and the individual didn't say anything and walked off. And then in the middle of the night, I was sleeping, and something hit my head, and I came running out of the tent with my buck knife. I thought it was that individual, and I'm running around the tent looking around, and there's no one there. And then I realized what had hit me was, it was fall time, and it was a hickory pig nut that just happened to hit me on the head because I was like in the corner of the tent. And I thought it was the guy that was supposedly throwing rocks at me and stuff like that. So that was a crazy adventure too. But it's a beautiful place with lots of waterfalls. And then let's move on to the next adventure. Not New Mexico, although I'd love to be there one of these days, is the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Right here, the Wading River. I did this camp out when I was about 12 with the Boy Scouts, and it was really cool. It was a beautiful place. I mean, I just remember walking for miles and miles and miles in the swamps and nothing but blueberry bushes, and you just walk by and just eat blueberries the whole time. It was a wonderful canoe trip with rapids and things like that. But what made it weird for me is, even though it was early summertime, I didn't really have a really good sleeping bag. I actually got hypothermia, the beginnings of hypothermia, and they had to take me to the medical tent and warm me up, and I was all stressed out that I would miss the canoe trip. But luckily, I snapped out of it, warmed up enough to be able to go on a canoe trip, and it was a wonderful time doing a little bit of whitewater canoeing. Pine Barrens have always been special to me. They're a really cool place. So that would definitely be another adventure. And then last but not least, another cool place which is somewhat reasonable to get to. And I should just call it the Carolinas, really, because it's so close to the places I go to in North Carolina. But it's this place here. It's called the Mountain Ridge Wilderness, right here on the border between North Carolina and South Carolina. It's rugged. It's got beautiful mountains and lots of waterfalls and really cool stuff. One of my favorite places to go to. And what's cool about this one is, when I was up there, there was someone from my neck of the woods also camping up there. And we got to know the ranger really well there too. So we spent a lot of time with the ranger at the Mountain Bridge. I think it was Jones Gap was the place I was staying at. And he had really guided us to a lot of really cool places to see and things like that. So those are my 5 really cool adventures I've been into or experienced so far. And I have to tag a couple of people, and I'm going to tag some really interesting people because I'm really curious to see their adventures, because I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's going to be Carolina Chris, Bluecollar Backcountry, and Campfire Steve, because I'm sure all 3 of them will have some really funny, crazy adventures that they've been on. And again, check out Florida Pirate Adventures. Great channel, good guy. I'll leave all the links to the channels below.